The war in Ukraine was supposed to dominate the Munich Security Conference, but it was totally absent from the U.S. Vice President's remarks. J.D. Vance commenting on a series of domestic issues within European countries, urging its leaders to protect what he sees as free speech and to stem illegal immigration. Take a listen.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Well, Volodymyr Zelensky, for his part, insisted Friday that the Trump administration has not yet finalized its plan to end the Ukraine war. The Ukrainian president says that he is ready for direct talks with Russia only once Kyiv has reached a common position with Washington. Well, it remains to be seen, though, whether or not that will happen. Zelensky saying simply that for now, the U.S. president has given him his phone number during a call between the leaders earlier this week. Here's the Ukrainian president.
I think what is very important, the meeting, not to make any decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine. This is principal position we will never accept it. And when I said that we will never accept, I'm not speaking just about me. I'm speaking about all our people, all our nation. People will not stop. We will give him pause. Without the real security guarantees, we will give him pause. I don't want to, be those person in the history who helped Putin to occupy my country.
For a debrief then on the conference thus far, France 24's international affairs editor Ketivan Gorjestani joins me now on set. Hi, Ketivan. So what should we make of J.D. Vance's comments then?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, the fact that Ukraine was basically absent from his 20-minute speech, and even the sort of talking point related to European security, which is that Europe needs to do more about its own security, that was basically one or two lines maybe. The rest was really a sort of scolding, a lecture of J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, towards the Europeans in the room. The atmosphere was absolutely surreal in that room. There were times when where he was waiting for applause and that didn't happen. There were really two big points in his scolding of the Europeans. One was about freedom of expression, and the other one was about opening the floodgates to mass immigration. And basically, he told that the Europeans didn't remember what they were fighting for. They were fighting against an enemy, but they didn't know what they were protecting it from. And so it was odd, first of all, because of the location. He's at the Munich Security Conference, and he basically did not address the major security issues. And it also was the tone. It really was a lecturing of the Europeans. And it was also a little bit ironic when you know what is happening right now in the United States under the Trump administration to lecture the Europeans about democracy, about freedom of speech, when your administration is barring reporters from going into the Oval Office because their outlet, in this case the AP, is refusing to use the term Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico. There were several moments like this, and it didn't sit well at all with the Europeans. Are already getting reactions, especially from the Germans, because there was a point where he talked about Germany and how the Germans were sort of authoritarian regime. And so the Germans called his comments absolutely unacceptable to target Germany, and unacceptable to call into question the democracies of Europe. So not a great moment for the relationship between the United States and the European, but it's going to be interesting to see how other European leaders react.
Given his comments, you would almost forget that a major war that's killing and injuring hundreds of thousands on this very continent is still taking place. Volodymyr Zelensky, for his part, obviously focused exclusively on the war in Ukraine. Then at his town hall, what were the major takeaways, you think, from his remarks?
Well, he put his foot down a little bit on this idea that the United States could negotiate directly with the Russians. He said that he was willing to sit down with one Russian and one Russian alone, Vladimir Putin, but not until he would have discussed the sort of outline of a possible peace negotiation with the Americans and with the Europeans. So he's basically defending Ukraine, but also the Europeans, saying no negotiation can happen without those two elements. He also, as he does very ably and very diplomatically, he tries to sort of balance his possible frustration with Donald Trump, with also sort of being careful not to go too far. This talk about Donald Trump giving him his number and telling him that he can call him anytime he wants. He insisted that Donald Trump was the key to ending the conflict in Ukraine. So ways to show that Donald Trump has a role to play, because he knows that he needs support of the United States. But he is expected in maybe a few minutes or so, or later this evening, to speak directly to J.D. Vance. And I think that meeting is something that Volodymyr Zelensky is really waiting for, to figure out what exactly are the Americans thinking right now. Because over the past few days, you've really heard everything from Donald Trump, from Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance, from outright direct talks with the Russians and forgetting all about Ukraine, to we might send U.S. troops in Ukraine to defend them against the Russians. So I think he's going to want to hear from J.D. Vance to get a little bit of clarity on where the U.S. stands.